Okay, can I share my screen now, Emanuela? Okay, I don't know if I should start, Emanuela.
Good evening, guys. You're welcome to another session of the Introduction to Web Development series, courtesy of Blockchain UNN. So this is a program of the Blockchain UNN Dev community, and today we welcome you to our session on HTML5, basic HTML5. This is a revision session and a follow-up of our session that was held on Monday. So on Monday we delved into the basics of HTML5 and semantic HTML, and today we'll do the revision on those topics. So you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. As you join in, kindly share the space and sorry, not space. Share the link to the live stream to other people that may be interested in this, so that they can join us. The session promises to be great. We want to continue what we already know about HTML, and as you all know, HTML is the basic structure of the web, the backbone of the web. So basically, there's no website without HTML. What it simply means is that if you want to be a web developer, you must have a good grasp of HTML5. And today we have Vera and Divine, who will be teaching us about HTML as a follow up to the previous session we held on Monday. And after the session, the assignment for HTML will be dropped on the uh, WhatsApp group chat, so you can go ahead and do that and follow up from there. So kindly share the link to this session to your friends and invite them. We'll be kicking off once it's 8:40, and that is in 2 minutes time. So my name is Emanuela Agwenu. I am the assistant community lead, dev community lead at Blockchain UNN. And with me today in the studio is Farah, a front end developer and a community member at Blockchain UNN. Also is Divine. Divine is also a front end developer and a community member at Blockchain UNN. And today they will be taking us on the basics of HTML5 and semantic HTML. So you're welcome. You're very, very much welcome. We'll be kicking off in 2 minutes time. So you can use this time to invite your friends. Guys, it's 8:40, and as promised, we have to get started. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we just have to kick off, and other people will join us as we go along. So once again, this is a session on basic HTML5 being held by blockchainunn. So as you watch this stream, like whether you're live or you get to watch the recording later, kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel if you aren't subscribed, to keep abreast of all the sessions that we have and all the information and videos that we share on here. So we'll be kicking off right away. And I'll be inviting Vera now to Vera, can you hear me? Vera, can you hear me? Divine, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Can you guys hear me, please?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Vera, can you hear me?
Should I start?
All right. Okay. Okay, Vera. I think you can get started now. I'll be sharing your screen so that you can kick off.
Okay.
All right. All right, Vera, you're up.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Opasivera, and I will be going through the revision of what we basically taught on Monday. So, moving quickly, I will try to be as fast as I can since this is just basically a revision class. So, this is a revision on the basic structure of the HTML5. So, moving forward, we are just going to basically talk about the basic structure of a HTML file, common HTML5 tags and elements, HTML attributes, forms, tables, schematic HTMLs, and etc. So, first of all, we are just going to look at what HTML is. Again, summarily, HTML is an abbreviation for hypertext markup language. So this is to say that HTML is not a programming language, but a markup language. So as it's written down here, HTML is a standard markup language for creating web pages. It describes the structure of a web pages. So what this means is that, yeah, it's very possible that there are other languages, other markup language that could be used to create a web page, but HTML is the standard for creating it. So when we say something is standard, it means that this is actually the best fit for doing this. So HTML is summarily seen as a skeleton, the skeleton of a web page. Every other thing that happens in the web page is on top of the HTML. That's what we say is the structure of a web page. Like, for instance, let's say a car. HTML is just like the piece of metal that make up a car. You know that there's the metal, and then inside the metal you have the steering, the chairs, and stuff. So HTML is just like the metal that is the car. Now, when we talk about CSS, we talk about the color of the car, and then we talk about JavaScript, we talk about the steering and actually what makes the car move. But we are not talking about that. So that's just summarily what HTML is. It's the structure, how a web page is being structured to look like. And it consists of a series of elements. HTML tells the browser how to display content. Oh, I have content to display. I want it to be content in a paragraph, in a table. I want a form. I want it to be bold. This is what HTML would help you tell the browser, oh, I have content, I have things I want to show to the browser. Now, basically, HTML actually helps to tell the browser, this is how this person wants this to be structured, and this is what this person needs. So that's basically what the HTML is. So HTML elements label pieces of content such as this is a heading, this is a paragraph, this is a link. So when it is put inside an element, like this is the HTML element, you have some start tag and some closing tags with this is a heading being enclosed inside of it that actually makes it a web page. So going forward, what makes up an HTML document. The following tag defines the basic HTML document structure. We have the HTML tag. Now, basically, this tag acts as a container for every other element in the document except the doc tag HTML tag, the doc type HTML tag. So what does this mean? It means that this particular HTML tag contains every other thing you want to be in that web page, your information, every other element is being contained into the HTML tag. It tells the browser, oh, I'm a HTML document. So, okay, that's what the doc type HTML does. And the tag also, please treat me as a HTML tag, as a HTML element. So that's basically what it does. Now, the head tag, it includes all the document metadata. We in some following slides would actually explain this in detail. So we also have the title tag, the body tag. So coming over to this diagram, we can see this is just how it is structured. When my colleague will actually show a practical, then we will see exactly what it looks like. But basically, following my mouse, you can see this is the doc type here. It's the very first thing that you affix in your web page. I mean, on when you are trying to pass an information to your browser in your IDE. So you're saying, okay, this is actually a HTML document, and then you put in the HTML tag that kind of encloses every other tag, every other information, every other content that you are also that you want to include into your HTML. So that's basically what the HTML tag does. It kind of encloses every other thing. Now the head contains metadata. And what this means is, I don't know if you can see this diagram. I don't know, Emanuela, can you see the diagram? Hello, Emanuela. Emanuela,
Yeah,
can you see
can you
the
hear
diagram?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you see the diagram?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay,
But you
okay,
might need to go full screen so that it can be more visible.
okay.
You may need to go full screen, especially for people that will be watching on their phones.
Okay. How do I do that? I think I'm full
Okay.
screen only.
Go back to
Yeah.
the your slide. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this is PowerPoint, right? So just looking for the full screen. Okay, look at this your Zoom slider. Try that. Yeah, try and see that if that works.
Where?
The Zoom slider down towards the bottom right of your page.
Okay, is this okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Can you zoom it a bit more?
Oh yeah, I can. How about this?
Okay. I think this is okay. I think this is
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
All right. So I was actually talking about the head tag of a HTML file. So when we talk about of a HTML document rather, so here in this place we can actually see something. The title also is being contained inside of the head. There are other things, metadata, that is also being contained in the head. So basically, I think everything that is going to be imported, mostly everything that is going to be imported into the HTML tag. For example, if I want to import a file, if I want to import a font, I put the link in my head. If I want to import a style, my style sheet, I also add the link to the head. And my title is also in the head, and some other things that have been included that we'll see as we progress. So we also have the body tag. Inside the body, we actually now write what will be displayed in the browser. So if like I said, I'm sorry, but this doc type, the head does not display, would not display in the browser. Everything that will be displayed in the browser starts from the body. So if I want to write, this is a paragraph, I am starting from the body tag to write everything I want to be displayed in the body tag. So going forward, we can actually now see what a detailed diagram of what actually goes on in the head tag and in the body tag. So this is the title tag. Inside the head tag rather, we have the title tag, we have the style, we have the meta tag, we have the link, we have the base tag. Though we have a script tag, but most of the time you can also just include the script tag at some other place that is not the head. So here we also have the header inside the body tag rather, sorry. Inside the body tag, we have the header, we have the nav, we have the section, we have the aside, because that's actually basically where we write what we want to see. So we could arrange it as we want to arrange it. We use a lot of elements inside of the body tag because that's actually where it matters. In the head tag, because we cannot write things we see, we only pass in things that are needed for the functionality of the web page. That's what happens in the head. But in the body, we actually put in things we want the browser to display. Okay, I want to put in a paragraph element, and inside of it I want to write, oh, this is me. So I'm passing it inside of the body tag. So this is the body tag, and inside the body tag I'm putting a paragraph that is saying, oh, this is me, and then the browser would actually recognize that. So moving forward, we can also note there are some differences, because there are some differences between the header and the heading. So basically, the head tag is just like I explained earlier. It's the where the metadata, the titles, all the links that I want to add, like the font awesome link, the bootstrap link, the my custom CSS style sheet, everything I want to add, all the links that I want to import to actually um kind of like I don't to actually like influence rather my web page is being included in the head. So that's basically what the head is. Now when we talk about the header, when we now go into the web page, I mean in the body tags, we have the header, we have the main, we have the footer. So it's just kind of like tags that are used to ensure that your web page are arranged in an orderly manner. So now the header is basically what is contained in the header basically is what I want for me, what I want my audience to see when you just look at my web page. You don't have to be looking like a common example of what is contained in the header is the navigation. In the navigation, what is included there? We have the home, we have the about us, we have the contact us. These are things that people look out for in every site. Oh, I want to know about them. The home, okay, this is what we have, this is who we are, this is how you can reach us. These are what are being contained, vital information that the users of that web page wouldn't want to stress about looking for. These are informations that are being contained in the header. So that's basically what the header is. It's a tag, and inside the header we have the navigation tags and others. So that's basically what the header tag is. Now we have the headings. Inside of the headings, we have like headings like these are headings that okay, it's like from H1 to H6, and then from what is here, it represents the heading subject of a page from the most important down to the least part. When you use this H1, or let's say for example we use H1, you're saying okay, please treat this with importance. I want this to be the topic. For instance, I'm writing, if I want to write about myself, my name is Obasivera. So I want to write Obasivera. I want everybody to see that, okay, this is about me. I'm going to use a H1, though I could use H6 and then style it to be bigger. But H1 already comes with a lot of emphasis, and anything that is being enclosed inside of it, people is going to be shouting, oh, please see me. And that's how it goes. H2 is just closely following the H1, H3, and then that's how it goes. So that's basically what the difference between the header, and then the heading is. So moving forward, I don't know if you can hear me.
Are you there?
So
Hi, Farah, can you hear me? Are you there?
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you, but it's breaking a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you, yes.
Okay, is how about now?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you. I
so
can hear
I'm
you.
going forward. Okay, okay. I was actually talking on the HTML building block. So HTML tags are elements that contain and a less than sign. So for instance, if I wanted an element being represented by a B, so you see how this and less than, I'm going to put it inside of that and then instead of the and then bold, and then you give it a closing tag. A closing tag being is known because just like the opening tag, but the only difference is that it has a stroke just before you close it. So that's basically what it is. That is for tags. So going on to an attribute, an attribute in HTML provides extra information about the element, and it is up in HTML down. We'll see some examples, and then I would actually explain more in detail. But I'm just actually going to read them out in case someone is writing. So we also have elements, and an HTML element is an individual component of an HTML file. In an HTML element, everything written within tags are termed as HTML tags. Elements, sorry. So, okay, that's basically it. So if we go down here, we'll see from the next slide, common HTML5 tags. We have the HTML meta tag. So inside of the meta tag, we are seeing the doc type. You can see the title, we can see link, we can see link, then we quote bar and then break. So we this all these are examples of HTML5 tag. We also hear link tag, and then we have the A, we have base, image tag, we have image area map, list tag, we have ULOLLIDL, and then there are lots of tags that actually that are being used in the HTML, but these are based on actually how they occur. Like this HTML, these are for text. If I want something, if I want my text to be shown in a certain manner to the browser, these are what I just want. Even like I just want to go to. I'm using the break line. So these are basically what the common HTML5 tags. So moving forward, we could actually see an example of how stuffs happen, just like as I was trying to explain in previously before now. So this is a start tag and this is an end tag. So this is actually the element, the content being passed in here. See with the results. So this is actually how it is being structured, and things being added inside of it would now be affected by the tags. Like the tags would affect them, and then it will show based on the kind of tag that it is. So you can see here, this is a U tag, and because it is you, this content actually has an underline under it. This is bold. This is the content inside here is bold, and because it's enclosed inside of a bold tag, it is being affected by the tag that is there. So that's basically how a HTML actually, this is actually, sorry, how an element works. So moving forward, we could actually go through some other things and okay. So these are common HTML5 elements. So when we talk about HTML5 elements, we have the block level elements and then we have the inline elements. So when we talk about block level elements, we are basically talking about elements that take up their own space. They don't want to share the space with anybody. They just want to be there. So from what we have here, they said these are those that structure the main part of your web page by dividing your content into coherent blocks. They always start on a new line and take up the whole width of a page from left to right. So you could actually go on and on. But basically, what it means is they don't want to share. For instance, we have the paragraph. Even if I am going to write I am here and then I enclose it in a paragraph tag, it is taking the whole page. It is taking the whole line. I can't actually add, even if I added another line, say a bold after the paragraph tag, the bold is starting from the next line. That's what a block element basically means. It takes up the whole line, no matter how small or how big the content that is being enclosed inside of the tag is. So that's basically what it means. And here, these are some of the examples that we have. We have the address, article, aside, div, footer, form, H1s to H6, and these are basically some of the examples that we have. They just don't share the space. They like to be by themselves. So we also have the inline elements that are used to distinguish part of the text. Here, they could coexist with some other elements. And for instance, the why it's actually being used is I might actually want to style something differently, but I don't necessarily want to style it to keep it in a new line, and then that's where the inline element comes in. They can share. I want to add a link, and then I'm talking about the inline element. I want to span. I want to make a particular alphabet bigger in a sentence, in even a word. I could just span the elements and then style it. So basically, the inline element can share its space. It's okay if um if I span and then I still continue writing it. In the web page, you won't even notice that that something has that see there's something that is behind that. This is in actually in another tag because it won't be show, like it won't show. For instance, a span. If I kind of span my if I span a particular content and then I wanted to style it differently, it won't there won't be any difference from every other word that is also being contained in in that content, because it's just going to be normal. The only difference would be when the styling comments. The href, the a tag could actually be different because it comes with a different color because it's a link. But basically, the inline elements they do not take up the whole block. They could actually share the space. Share spaces. So that's basically for the block level elements and inline elements. And here are some of the examples: the bold, the break line, the button, the emphasis, italics, image, input, label, object. And these are most examples, some of the examples of inline elements. So moving forward, we also have HTML attributes. Now, all HTML elements can have attributes. I don't know if you're following. I don't know if I'm too fast. I don't know if you're following. Manuela, I don't know if I'm fast, or I don't know if I'm going at the right pace.
Yeah, I think you're going just fine.
Okay,
Just keep going at that pace.
okay. Okay, so HTML attributes. All HTML elements can have attributes. Attributes provide additional information about elements. Attributes are always specified in the stats tag. Attributes usually come in name, value pair, like name equals to value. So now this is an example of what basic HTML struct attributes. So just like I said in the previous slide, in this slide here, they are being specified in the start tag. So this is where it comes in. So for instance, this lang is an attribute. So I'm telling HTML, I want you to display this thing in English language. So this is it. So we have the chassis, and then we have the class, we have the source, we have IDs. All these are, this is the name, the lang is the name, and then en is the value. So just like I read out here, they usually come in name value, just like in name value pairs, just like name is equals to value. So here we have the ID is equals to login, the image source is equals to logo. So what this is basically telling, the say this paragraph, this class of info is basically telling, it means is okay, I want this to actually belong to a group of, let it be, let all of them be grouped as, okay, let me just come again. For instance, this button, let's use the button first. This button, it has an ID login. What does it mean? Okay, actually I want to make this to be unique. I could call it in my styling, to style it in a particular place, because I could have thousands of buttons in the web page, and I actually want to style this particular login ID equals to login differently. So I'm actually giving it an attribute to differentiate it from every other buttons that I have. So I could call it anytime I want, and then I could, when I want to call it, I don't need to go and start calling button again. I just need to just add a a hash, and then I'm calling the login. So I could style it, I could call it to style, I could use it in the JavaScript to add some functionalities. So we also have like the source, this image source. It means, okay, please go here and fetch. Maybe I already have this image in my folder or in my working file. So I'm just saying, please, I want you to look for this image, and just bring this image for me. So that's what it means. Even this alt too is an attribute. So if this image could not display, okay, let logo be showing there. The class also. Now there's just a slight difference between the class and the ID. Basically, it's used for making a tag stand out, like the button, just like it's been added here. So the difference between the class and the ID is, the class, I could use it multiple times. I could actually want to style some paragraphs, say, to be in a certain way. I want three of my paragraphs to have the color red, and then two to have the color green. So I could just give the ones I want them to have the color red a class name, say class red, and then I'm giving the ones I want to have the blue color, class blue. Two of them could have it. So whenever I want to style or apply some function to it, I don't need to now come and be styling them differently, or because all of them are paragraphs, and if I use the p tag style, it's going to like affect all of them. So I could use the class and then give them classes based on how I want to style it, or how I want them to be grouped, and it makes it easier. But the ID, it's just, you don't like group, you can't give two elements, can't be sharing an ID. Only one element could actually have this ID. It could be it, and then you could actually look for another ID to give to the other element. So that's just basically what the difference between the class and the login and the ID. So moving forward, we have an overview of the HTML markup syntax shown so far. So this is what it means. So this is the tag name, the H tag, and this is the attribute name, the class, just like shown in the previous slide, and then this is the attribute value, primary, and then this is the content, example heading, and then this is the closing tag. So this everything here, the HTML element. Now this is my start tag from this opening HTML1 to where it closed. So the attribute, just like said earlier, is being contained inside of the start tag. I want to put a link. I want to put a class. I want to put an ID. Everything happens at the start tag, and then you pass in your content, and then you close the tag. So that's basically just an overview. If you open your web browser and then you write this down on your notepad on your IDE, and then you open it to the web browser, this would actually show with example heading being big and then actually taking the function of this H1. So that's basically how it looks like. So we moving forward, we have forms. So reading from here, form an HTML form is used to collect user input. The user input is most often sent to a server for processing. The HTML form element is used to create an HTML form for user input. So basically, the form is an element, and then we put in information inside the form, because there are a lot of different types of input elements that is inside of the form. And just like it's written in this slide, the user input is mostly used. These forms are mostly used to send information to the server. Like the login. The login was built using form. So it has, for instance, these are examples of input elements that are contained. We have the text field. You could write anything you want to write in the text field, like name, when you want to write, please, okay, for instance, you've seen a login page, right? And then there's an allocation for name. My colleague would actually show some examples about everything that we've done here, including the forms. So we have the text field, and then in the text field, you could actually write the name. You can, just like in a normal form or sign-in page, for instance, you are seeing the place where you write your name. It's done using the text field, and then you just write in your name. There are lots of them: the check boxes, the radio button, submit button. We have even the email, and most of um these input elements are so like good, because for instance, if you had an email element, it's going to accept information that that has an email sign, like this at gmail.com. You must have it. So for instance, even if you're going to put in a wrong email, it must have some alphabet, some information before, and then at, and then some information after. So it kind of like helps to actually even regulate, do some things to regulate. Okay, for instance, if you have the password element, it's going to take some number and it's not showing it to you no matter what. It's just, you're just going to write it and it will show you. So this basically even helps the JavaScript, but basically that's what it does. The form, it tries to create some kind of form that could be used in the server side, just like every other forms that we've been seeing, the login pages, sign up pages, and stuff. These are all being built with HTML using forms. So moving forward, we also have made up of rows and columns. A table allows you to quickly and easily look up value, just like we know the tables. We know tables to be. Now it has rows and then it has columns. Some tables have only one row and one column. Some have two, some have three, some have 15, some have 25 rows and then two columns, depending on the information that will be contained. So basically, table elements include the table head. Okay, first of all, a table, when you want to write a table, when you want to actually create a table in your HTML, just like in the form. Sorry, I forgot to say, just like in the form, if I wanted to start form, I am going to specify to my HTML, okay, I'm using form. I want to start writing on form using the form. So just that's how also what happens here in the table. I also have to tell my HTML, okay, I want to start create a table using the table tag. So every other thing that would happen, you want to show or happen to that table will now be contained inside the table tag. So basically, this is how So moving on to the next section, like even the writing on I'm looking for examples. But basically, we know that there are tables, and then there are things. There could be table subtitles as to what's now happening like inside of the table. So that is basically what the table is. That is the head, it's the topic of the table. So that's basically what the T head means. And then we have the TH for everything that's going on in the head. We have the sorry about that. We have the TR. Now the TR is actually the table role. This is how we use to differentiate the first role from the next role. So if I'm writing a T, if I'm using a TR, I'm saying, okay, I think I want to go to a new role. So okay, now I'm done with passing information in the previous row. So take me to a new row. So that's what basically the TR does. And then we have the TD. TD is the table data. Okay, these are what I want to be contained inside of this row. Okay, do this one here. We could have, if I wanted 12 columns of code of table in a particular row, I'm using the table data 12 times, and then the table role is just going to be one because this is a role and then it has multiple columns. So that's basically how it works. Though inside of a table, we also have stuff like row span. Row span is when I want a particular role to be more increased than a size, than if every other table has only one role, and I want a particular row to take up two rows. I'm using the row span to tell my browser, okay, please show, I want this one to take two rows, and then I set it, and every other one is taking one rows. We also have the code span that says, okay, I want this to take this particular number of of sorry of columns. These two row span, column span, they are attributes of table data. These are attributes that is used inside of the table data because you pass them inside the opening tag, the start tag of a table of a table data. So that's basically what some elements that are being contained in the HTML. I my I don't know if there's like any question. I don't know if you are following Manela. Manela.
All right. Thank you very much, Vera.
Thank you. So I will be giving up my colleague to continue. That's basically all I have.
Drop them in the comments. Watch live and you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll take them later. So, but for now, I think we will invite Divine up to take over from here. Divine, are you can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, okay. So I think you can carry on from here.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Is can I
Okay,
want
you
to
can
leave my
carry
screen
on.
is all right.
Okay. All right, it's sharing now.
All right. So welcome everyone. I believe my colleague has been able to give us a brief breakdown on HTML and HTML forms and tables and their attributes. So here a we'll be looking at HTML tables. Let me continue from where she stops, but now we'll be in a practical aspect right now. So this is an example, an HTML page. So I'll be having my boilerplate, which shows us about the HTML structures and everything. You can see the doc type HTML, HTML language, telling us that it's in English, the head section, the body section, and HTML closing tag. So I believe my colleague has talked about everything about tags, attributes, block line elements, and inline. So here we'll be talking about tables, HTML tables. So firstly, I want us to edit our title to HTML tables, because we're going to be looking at HTML tables. Right. Firstly, you remember when my colleague mentioned about HTML tables. So what are tables? These tables are what help us define things. Tables allow us to arrange data into rows and columns, where each cell is defined by the TH or the TD element. So in a table, we use the table elements, and everything comes in the table, where we have our TH, our table data, our T head, our table body, and our T foot. Like in the original section, we could find out that there is T foot, but the T foot is mostly not used most times in creating semantic HTML elements. Most times it is omitted, but they are also can be used, but most times are mostly edited, are mostly removed. So now we'll be talking about HTML table. So now the table, we have to first create the HTML table tag. It is inside the table that we have our columns and everything a HTML table. Firstly, we have our table head. Helps us to define the heading of the table. So let's say we have a T head here. So inside our T head section, we'll be having our table row. So inside our table row, we'll be having our table head. So I'm going to create the table head adding tag. So I'm going to duplicate this. Let me make a 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to make use of 5. So here now, we're going to be creating a table a that shows various companies and their workers, their how many numbers of workers they have, how many numbers of staffs they have, or anything. Let's create this now. So we have our table head section, and inside our table head section is our table row, and we also have our table head. So now we're going to dive in to the table head. So most times the first table head is usually the first row. We know that tables are what they allow us to allow us to arrange data into rows and columns, where each cell is defined by a table head or a table data. So now back to our table head. So we're going to create. We said that we are going to be creating a table showing us what various companies and the type of jobs they have and the number of workers that they have. So firstly, we'll be having our companies, various companies. Then this is the first row in our table head section. Then our second row, as you can see from here, our second row is developers. Let's use developers. Then on our third row, let's have content writers. Then on our fourth row, we can have content content writers, content developers, and we have here as, let's say, graphic designers. So the first row, the first table head tells us that, okay, we have companies, which is the first row. Then the second row is telling us that, okay, we have developers, content writers, content developers, and graphic designers. So let's view this through our live server. You can see that in our live server we have in our live server we have you can see that we have companies, developers, content writers, and content developers and graphic designers. Emanuela, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, all right. So back to our table. We have
I can hear you.
companies,
Carry on.
all right. Companies, developers, content writers, content developers, and graphic designers. So we can see that this is a row showing us what different companies and their developers, content writers, those are the jobs that they have available. So let's go back to our table. Now, after finishing the table head section and we've done the table row, so we'll move to our table body. So in our table body, you can see that we also have various table rows and various table columns. So I'm going to make a table row tag with a corresponding closing tag. So, and our table data, because if you can notice the difference, we have at the table head section, you can notice that we have only the table, after the table row, we have what? Table head. So this table head is showing us, is letting us know that we are in the head section. It's giving us a clear distinction between a header and a data. If you could look closely when we get to the table data section, let me duplicate this. We have about 5 rows. So I'm going to be making 5 columns for our table data. So our first table data is the company. So the first table row is also our first table data from the beginning. So companies, let's say we have blockchain, UNN. So let's view this. You can see companies in is under the company section. You can see here. So this is showing us the difference between a header, a table head, and a what? Table data. So let's go back to our code and see. So let's say, so how many developers does the blockchain UNN have? Let's give about 5 developers, let's say 6 content writers and 2 content developers, and let's say they have about 3 graphic designers. So let's view this so you can see the blockchain UNN has 5 developers, 6 content writers, 2 content developers, and 3 graphic designers. So you can see that with the help of tables, we are able to arrange data into rows and columns in an orderly manner, and to give more to help give more difference into like how data are meant to be arranged. Because if this data were arranged in a poor manner, it would be clustered, and we will not be able to like get a very clear definition of what the table is trying to tell us. So the next one on our table, create another table row. Let's create another table row. Let me not duplicate. So create another table row. Creating another table row, also with creating another corresponding table data that's meant to give us more information. So I'm going to duplicate this table data. Okay, I think I did SS. So let me go back. We have just 5. So I'm going to be creating about 5 companies, I think. Let me see how many companies I can make out. We have, let's just make do of this 5. Okay. So now we finished with the first table row of our table body. So entering the second table row. So let's say we have another company, which is A1 blockchain. Let's say they have, remember, we are also following our original table row, which is helping us to arrange our table, our data in a very orderly fashion. So the first one is the companies. Then the companies are on the first table data, Then we have our data for developers on the second line of the table head. It will be in the second line of the second table row. So let's say we have 5 developers here, 5 developers, and we have 2 content creators or content writers. We have about 7, and let's say 2 graphic designers. So then we go to our next table row. Let's say we have Kev Academy. So we have Kev Academy. Our second line, you can see here developers. So we follow in that manner. The first let's say they have about 3 developers. On the third table head, we have what content writers. It will be on the same third line of our table data in our table row. Let's say content writers are about 4, and we have for content developers and graphic designers. Let's say we have about 3 and 5 graphic designers. Over to our last table row. In our last table row, let's say we have blockchain for you. It's another company. So let's say they have about, following our original table head, developers and content writers. So on the second one, let's say they have 2 developers and 6 content writers, about 3 content developers, and the last one is graphic designers. Let's say they have about 6 graphic designers. So we could view this in our live server. So here we can see that we've been able to create a data for these 4 companies and showing us their number of developers and content writers. So let's say blockchainunn has 5 developers, 6 content writers, 2 content developers, and 3 graphic designers. So we can see that with the help of HTML tables, we've been able to arrange data in an orderly manner and orderly fashion, which is helping us to arrange our data so we can know which data is for which, and without mixing them together. So after doing this, we could also add some styling just to make it like my colleague said. She talked about adding a little styling just to create, just like as you have the HTML, this is the skeleton. So we're about to give it a body, a free, like a very colorful body and a nice catchy look, which is going to like help us explain or help us buttress this table to be able to like show us a clearer view. So now we'll be using a little styling section from last class, using a little styling section. And remember that styling section are always in the header section and not on the body section or on the body tag. So now we have our style. We have our style, so we can see. So we're going to be styling this table. We have table, and we have, if you look, there's a particular order, or let's say in manner of whether descending order. We can see from our table, we have our what? Table head, our table row, and our table, and our th. So now we'll be styling this particular table now in a descending order. So we can see from the table, we have our what? T head. We also have our table row, and we also have our table head and our table data. So styling this. So let's say we'll be adding a little styling to this to help buttress the point that the data that we've created. So let's say border, let's give it a border of 2 pixels, solid black. Let's use this. So we can see from our lifestyle, we can see that we've been able to create a table, as you can see, various rows and various columns. So let's give it a little bit of style. So we're going to give it a border spacing. By the time we get into HTML, by the time we get into CSS, we'll be able to like see a broader view about all these stylings that I'll be using here, which is like border spacing. I'll be using a border spacing of 5 px, which is pixels. Then I'll be using a border collapse, a border collapse, so border collapse. Then we'll be using a background color of blue. Let's use blue. So from our live server, you can see that we've been able to create this table, which has a very beautiful background color. So let's give the text a color. Let's say a color of, let's say, yellow. Yellow isn't too flashy. So we can see that we've been able to create a table which shows us various data and well-organized data of various companies. So we've been able to create this table, and you can see we could also add a little bit of fonts, increase the font or reduce the font. Let's say we are adding font size, and we're using a font size of small. Let's see. you can see that everything that's changed in our HTML is changed also in from our live server. So we can see that we've been able to create a well precise table and well organized table. So I'll be moving over to HTML forms. So we'll be talking about forms. But firstly, I would talk about forms. So what are forms? An HTML form is used to collect user input. The user input is most often sent to the server for processing. So as we all know, we have various, which we might not know, which we have various forms, and these forms are used to collect data from a server or from a particular form, the person who created a form or the form created. So we could see that we have form element. So the form element is used to create an HTML form for user input. So as you can see, inside the form, we have various form elements that will be inside them, which are used to collect data from users, which are you and I. So we can also see from the forms, we also have a form. The form element is a container for different types of input elements, such as text field, checkbox, radio, buttons, submit buttons, just like my colleague mentioned in the earlier on. So you can see the input element. The HTML input element is the most used form element. So now the input element is the most used element in a form element. So we can see we have various types of form. We have the input type text. This displays a single line text input field. We have an input type radio, displays a radio button for selecting one of many choices. Input type a checkbox, displays a checkbox for selecting zero or many choices. Input type submit, displays a submit button for submitting the form. An input type button displays a clickable button. So going on, I would explain more in our VS Code. So we have text field defines a single line input field for text input. So a form with input elements for text. So we have a form here. As we can see, the label and a first name with a corresponding closing label tag and a line break, which is also a tag which does not have a corresponding closing tag. So as we all know that not all tags are self-closing. So there are some tags that do not have a closing tag. They only have a single tag which they are enclosed by themselves. So they do not need a closing tag. So we have the input type, text, ID, and the name. So this name is used in the input type to help interact with the server, and we have the label for last name, input type text, ID. So we could try it and let's see how this looks. So we can see, if you could see here, we have our value, which is what John. So you can see here, John gives us a value of, and we have a line break. You can see that this line break helps to what? Give us a line break. So instead of having things in a straight line form, but this creates a line break in order to give us a more presentable look of this form. So if I put here a placeholder, you can see, let me take off the value. So this placeholder from our last class, we could see that placeholder is used to give more information to the user telling the user what should be in the input type, what information is needed from the user. Let's say the place in this placeholder here, we have our first name. So telling the user that, okay, I want your first name to be imputed this in this input form. So now the user sees this first name and he knows that, okay, it's my first name that's meant to be in this input text type. So we all know that this is showing us first names. Whatever, let's say my first name is Divine, and we have my name. So what this placeholder does is it helps to what tell the user that give the user more information that about what is needed to be imputed in this input type, which is a text. So let's go back to our forms. So we have the label element. So this is to buttress the label tag we used here. So notice the use of the label element in the example above. The label tag defines a label for many form elements. The label element is used for screen reader users because the screen reader will read out loud the label when the user focus on the input element. So to explain more about what screen reader is, because screen reader is simply a software application that speaks out loud information from a computer displaying for users with impaired vision. So the screen reader are mostly used for what people with impaired vision, which helps to give them more information that, okay, this, it helps to like read out loud for people with impaired vision that, all right, you are meant to impute so thing, you're meant to impute your name, you're meant to impute your age, you're meant to impute whatever information is needed from the user. So we have the label elements also helps users who have difficulties clicking on very small region such as radio buttons or checkboxes, because when the user clicks the text within the label element, it toggles the radio button slash checkbox. So let's run through the radio button. The input type radio defines a radio button. Radio buttons let a user select one of a limited number of choices. So you can see here, choose your favorite web language. So displaying this, let's see, let me show you on my live server. So we can see various forms. So you can see here, it shows us choose your favorite web language. So this is an example of the radio type, of the input type, which is radio. So here now we can choose whatever options are given to us. Say which is your favorite web language. You could say JavaScript, click on CSS or on HTML, which we are presently on right now. So back to our forms, the checkboxes. The input type checkbox defines a checkbox. Checkbox lets a user select 0 or more options of a limited number of choices. So what this checkbox does is it helps us to check options that are given to us, which we check, okay, I have, this is how the HTML code will display in our browser. So let's view it and see how it looks. Sorry, I'm having a little. So let's go back to our, so you can see this is how we could check this. I have a bike. You could check if you have a car. You could check also if you have a boat. So that's what check boxes help us to do. It helps us to check different things within different options which are given to us. So the submit button, the input type submit defines a button for submitting the form data to a form handler. So now, let's say you have a form that you're meant to fill, and you filled in your name, you filled in your age, your first name, your last name, what you do, where you're from. So this submit button helps us to what? Give our information, our form data to a what? A form handler. So the form handler is typically a file on the server with a script for processing input data. The form handler is specified in the form action attributes. So we can see the form action attributes. This helps the form handler to receive our data, the user's data, to the server. So we have the name attribute. Notice that each input field must have a name attribute, like we earlier saw in the label when we're treating the label tag. If the name attribute is omitted, the value of the input field will not be sent at all. So this helps us give more information about the name. So the name, you can see that this, let's try it out ourselves. So you can see that without the name, it's unable to what? It's unable to give the value of the input field. It will not be sent to the server at all. So we have various exercises here of various forms. So heading over to our VS Code, you can see various forms. This is a form which I viewing this in a live server. So we see we have a sign up here, full name. We could see that the placeholder helps us what? Give more additional information. So this placeholder now is telling us that we need to put in our full name. We type our full name into it. Let's say our full name is favor, and a username of and an email address of, and input our password, and it helps to what? Which helps to give form handler information about us. So I would also be talking about HTML, which my colleague also mentioned, which we have semantic HTML just helps us to give HTML elements. So the use of semantic element creating web pages cannot be overemphasized, because without good semantic HTML pages, we would not be able to have a readable website or a readable page for users to use. So we can also see the benefits of writing semantic HTML markups or semantic HTML pages. So this, it helps the search engine will consider its content as important keywords, influences the page search ranking. So when we use semantic markups, it helps us to what? It helps the search engine optimization to be able to what? Give us more information when particular keywords are what are keyed in. So it also helps screen readers can use it as a signpost to help visually impaired users navigate a page. So I mentioned how writing semantic HTML pages helps what? Give the user who are impaired a very clear view of or helps them to what explain the finding blocks of meaningful code is significantly than searching through endless divs with or without semantic or namespaced classes. So what this just explains is that when we when we create HTML pages that are not semantic enough, it would lead us to having poorly developed pages which which can also end up in a div soup. So what's the div soup? A div soup is just when divs are used too many in a semantic HTML, often by nesting divs inside divs, instead of having pages of divs and divs and divs and divs. A well semantic HTML tells us, give me a minute. Sorry. So I would be showing us a clear example of semantic HTML. I have a HTML page. Okay. So now, so in creating semantic pages, we have our boilerplate. We could see that instead of creating divs inside divs, we could just differentiate this into various forms, which are the div and the navigation, the header, the main, the section, and the footer. So this helps us to what? Break down various HTML tags into to make the HTML page very semantic and readable for people that have impaired vision. So, Emanuela, please, can you hear me? I want to know if I'm being heard. Hello, Emanuela. Hello, Emanuela, can you hear me? Emanuela, please, am I being heard? Hello, Emanuela. Hello, Emanuela, am I being heard?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm done. I've been able to explain the HTML forms and the various tables.
All right. All right. Well done. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you so much. So, guys, that's it right there. So we've gotten the basics of HTML5. Thank you very much, Divine, for taking forms and tables. You've done a very wonderful job. Thank you to Vera. Vera had to leave us unfortunately due to network issues. So, but I thank you guys, Vera and Divine, for holding this session for us tonight. Thank you everyone too that tuned in at one point or the other. Um, if you're watching the recording, ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are right on time. We're supposed to end the session by 10 p.m. and this is 9:58 p.m. So kudos to you, Divine and Vera, for sticking to time. So thank you everyone for coming around today. Ensure to go through the recording of this session, um, and also share with your friends. So you can share this video, you can share the previous videos we have on the channel so that everybody remains up to date. Keep an eye out on the group chat for the assignments on HTML, which will be submitted next week. So thank you everyone. We'll continue our series by next week Monday. On Monday we'll be getting into CSS. So you should be excited for that. So once again, my name is Emanuela and I have with me here Divine and Vera. So we'll be signing out now. Thank you everyone for coming around and have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.